Hello, Vanakkam, and welcome to Sudarshan's podcast. I'm Sudarshan, the host. Today I have Arnob Mukherjee, who is a designer turned entrepreneur, or I would say builder. Build a couple of products, a design tool, and also another product tool called Curls and Olvy, and is one of the interesting voices in the product and design space. Right here, now, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Super excited. Have heard a couple of them in the past. Like, have heard your podcast in the past, and yeah, pretty excited to see what even I talk about about my own stuff. But yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So one of the things I recently noticed, right? Initially, when I started this podcast, very few founders have sat with a different podcast. Of course, that was a time where podcasting is something slowly started picking up. And now, one of my recent questions, it become very common across last few episodes is how is it to sit on the other side? Even because the founders I spoke to, right, Ashutosh from RevRag, and also another Ankur from Fiber, they both have done their podcast. They've been on the host side. They hosted people, and now talking to you, I've seen your profile where you have, been spoken to people, even hosted podcasts. How is it?
Mm.
How is that? How is
I was to be
I
on the other
mean,
side.
both sides, right?
Yeah,
To host
yeah.
and also, yeah, being hosted.
To be honest, I always give podcast in my head to someone else. I've always been talking about, why I'm doing that podcast and stuff like that. But yeah, I get it. I mean, see, at the end of the day, I feel like podcast and um any form of like media that we're trying to create on internet is also comes from maybe something we've always wanted to do in the past, right? I mean, you would have imagined yourself to do something in the past saying like, hey, I would have some that kind of show or something like that. And obviously not everyone is going to be into a production line to go and build out something which is great, right? And in fact, the last podcast that I used to do for Olvy, which was used to call as Product Woman, where I've
Woman.
always introduced on an Indian context, where I've always introduced people that can I have a product show which could be like something where people just speak out loud and speak their thoughts out, right? And can I be the one who can be that mediator to do that? So being on the other side, I feel like because you as a podcaster would have learned so much from other people, and because there was a reason why you were also doing that podcast, there's a lot of learning that you also want to speak. So I think today what I'm thinking about is like maybe this is this there's a lot of things that I could retrospect while I'm talking to you on a podcast, and what I've also seen in the medium of podcast, and what my guests have also said, that it helped them to retrospect of all their learnings, right? So I can totally imagine what they meant. I'm also like pretty excited about, okay, what are some of the things that I could actually like add upon this whole conversation that we do. And it definitely feels like some kind of responsibility, but it also feels like, yeah, there is now I can speak out with and compile everything that goes in my head all the time, right? And maybe this is the space where I can probably like go and talk more about. So I think that's sort of the feeling is what I could think of.
Right, right. Okay, before we enter, I just want to, for listeners, give them an intro about who Arnab is and what were you doing with Olvi and other things you did before.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, hey, I'm Arnab. I also also known
Introduce
as,
yourself, Arnab.
yeah. I was like, let's have some fun. But yeah, um, I have been working in the last 5 years. I started something called as Olvy, which was in 2020 and 2021. It was basically literally a side project. And before and eventually we raised some fund. We got attracted by investors in the early days by with the kind of things that we were building. So all we basically started
Any
as,
specific numbers you would like to share about the?
I think we raised in 2021 around 350K, right? So that was
Awesome.
that was a small pre-seed round, and initially I think we started as a side project, as I said, but like when we were building that, it was basically a release note tool, right? And before Olvy also, I have done bunch of these side projects as a designer, as a builder, as you said, right? Like I mean, I believe myself to be a builder because I try to grow. I try to go in like the whole spectrum of product building, right? From building it to getting your first 10 users to getting your first 100 users. How does virality has been orchestrated? How do you go, and what are the growth hacks that happens? I've a very good amount of my life. I've been an indie hacker from my college till, like my first job, third job, stuff like that. With on the side, I used to, do a lot of these things for brand building, for just to understand what are the other side of the things, that basically takes a company to become a product, and how this whole thing really works, right? So as I said, once we raised the round, before that we were basically a release note tool. We were a change log management tool. Essentially what we used to do was, back in the day, there was a trend that came in by Slack, which is what's new, right? So inside Slack, there used to be this gift button where they would announce all the new things that they've shipped and stuff like that. And like, is it a bug fix? Is it a new feature that has come out and stuff like that, right? So, and at that point of time itself, when we were building it, there were a bunch of these new indie tools that um, that were basically brewing, right? There were a couple of them that they were becoming famous. People were adopting that thing. In fact, we also had like a bunch of these products like user voice. Product board was coming in, right? They were
Yeah.
in like 2017, 2016. Product board was coming in, and if we look at it on an enterprise level, a decade ago, user voice was doing it in 2010 or 2009,
Okay.
right? Like, so, and they literally had companies like Microsoft and bunch of these uh, big companies like Sun Direct, and like, sorry, not Sun Direct, so the Sun Oracle, like some of
Okay.
these sort of older enterprise businesses that were using user voice. So we felt like, there's obviously a very big shift that has happened in the last, like, before 2020, like that decade, and even before that, the evolution of the software was happening very rapidly faster. Like, there's just too many things that were happening, right? And I and Nishant was my co-founder.
Okay.
We used to work in a very similar kind of company. So he was one of the first early engineers in Atlan, right? When Atlan was
Okay.
basically building out,
Yeah,
and
it's a
I was,
data.
yeah.
Mm,
So, and then I was working at Cubol, which was a higher end, like enterprise company, which was into big data, right? Into big data processing and stuff like that. So now over there, one of the things that we understood was that a lot of these companies are basically being run by sales in general. Like, you would have a sales team that is always looking for new customers and stuff like that. And then the second stage is basically CSMs, right? So there will be customer success managers who are making sure the retention is happening of these customers. And these are not like prosumer business. These are like hardcore SLG products that would have like
mhm.
$1 million checks, and then they need to do retention. So one
Okay.
of the things that, while I was there, he was there, we figured out that the communication is a big thing, and because
Right.
of which customer success, as a whole, department stays, or basically is existing, to make sure that there's always a relationship that has been built with these customers, and always there has to be some kind of communication that happens. So that was one trend which is on the higher end that was happening. The other trend was a lot of indie hackers, and the pace of building the softwares were coming up, and they wanted to sort of have something where they can keep announcing about the changes of their product inside the product itself, right?
Yeah.
So that's when we thought like, let's build this out. Seems to be like something that is picking up. And I and Nishan sort of worked in the whole of 2020. I was also working at that time. I've been working as a, like, before Olvy, I've worked as a product designer in bunch of companies like Ola. I've headed design for a small startup called Creator Stack. And before that, I was, as I said, I was working as a product designer, as early product designer for Cubol. So we both had, at least I had the understanding of the B2C side, working with Ola.
Arnab,
Yeah.
sorry to stop in between.
Mhm.
Yeah, during when you worked in Ola, whether Anuj was there? Anuj was
No,
previously heading their design team. Okay. Uh,
no. I think probably
I
later
think it
on.
was similar time when you.
Sure.
Okay. Mm.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
That was literally the COVID time is when I was working there.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right. Okay. Then Ola happened. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I was working there, right? And after that I was working, this small startup, as I said. So in the whole of 2020 and even before that, we were working only in the weekends, right? So we were literally building the product the whole of 2020. And because I also used to do indie hacking with this color palette tool called Colors, which also gotten, like, has been taken by another builder. He's growing in his own thing. So because I understood how that first, with Colors, I've understood like how you can orchestrate your first 1,000 users, or the first 100 users. How do you do indie hacking? What is built in public and stuff like that? The same principles, I just started picking those things up for Olvy as well. So in 2020, in Saturdays and Sundays, we were just building Olvy, and then in 2021, we actually launched the product in 2020, 1 Feb, right? And specifically, I think 24 Feb or something. The product and launch went pretty amazing, right? Like, one of the places
Okay.
that I kept doing launches was TH launches, because I've done it in the past. In fact, I was looking into my profile of product hunt. I've literally done some around 14 products launches, and
Okay.
nine of them have been on the top five,
Okay.
which is which is like, I've
We
understood
should
how.
talk more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, we'll talk. So because I understood how product hunt hacks work, why is it important and stuff like that, because I've been doing this when I was in college. So back in 2016, and I think 2012 is when product hunt basically started, right? And we also understood like how this works. Taking all of that, initially, one of the biggest things that we did was, in terms of making a difference, was like all of the competitors that are getting built apart from, let's say, Canny, Product Board, or User Voice. These were all indie hackers who were building the product, right? But now we are the ones who have also worked in, a typical companies, understand what tastes look like, what, like what is the quality of shipping that we can bring in, right? Some kind of creativity, some another level of growth hacks that we can think of, because we were also working in very hardcore sort of companies, right? We know how to build products, how to ship them and stuff like that. And that's when the product and launch that we did was with a great like video stuff like that. People like loved the fact that it doesn't even feel like this was actually done by a team of two, right? Because it looked, from the first day, it looked like, there's a very specific tweet from Jim, who is also another indie hacker. He's great. You
Okay.
could find him on X. I think he has some amazing followers as well. He specifically wrote down that it does, like, Olvie doesn't even feel like they are done by indie hackers or whatever. They were actually, it felt like someone from Stripe or some of these companies, the way they launch them, they have launched themselves, right? So we, at that point of time, we understood like, okay, we have some differentiation that we can create with our own creativity, with our own skill set. And that's when, like, the whole of 2021, we were figuring out how we got, and then we ended up with 200 users, 200 users, and 2000, sorry, 200 customers, with lifetime deal also is something that we used to do. So
Okay. In
we got some
2021.
in 2020, in 2021, correct.
Okay.
And we were like at 2000 users, 3000 users in general, right? So we were
Okay.
growing. We understood like, okay, there's something that is
What
working
was the
out.
revenue then in 2021?
I think we hit 1,000 or $1,500 or something
No.
in MRR,
Hmm.
right? So
Okay.
that's where it was. And eventually, yeah, eventually then, we got our first investor by a cold outreach, and there were a bunch of other people that were coming in. But we were also thinking like, we don't think this is a big market in general, because obviously there are 60 or 50 sort of people who were building the same thing, but we obviously cracked because we were able to brand ourselves and stuff like that. Then we realized, one of the things while we were building, we realized in the early days is a bunch of, so we had this feature in the release notes, is that every release note that goes out there would have a feedback form at the end, right? So people can actually tell you, your users can basically tell you about what they actually felt about this release note, right? And it would come as a feedback and things like this. And even before AI stuff, whatever we are looking
Okay.
at today,
Hmm.
what we did was we did something very interesting. This came from, Nishant, who is sort of a builder mindset and was also an engineer. He was like, what if we have all these feedback coming in and we pass it through a sentiment analysis program, right? And
Okay.
that's when
Hmm.
we used to sort of get all of this data, and also give like, okay, what is the overall feedback that you have been getting around the releases that you're doing, right? And that's when we started interviewing a lot of people who have used our product, and we got an insight that, hey, seems like all the feedback that I've been getting, this totally makes sense, because I would be able to now filter out on the basis of the ones that is very important, which means the negative feedback, the neutral feedback, and
Hmm.
things like this.
Hmm.
And also will be, I can also see the reactions of these users who have given this. I also have the attached email ID of who has given this, right? So we have
Yeah. Yeah.
we have user identification, things like this.
Hmm.
And they were like, what if I could also respond back to them, right? What if I could also, have a little more analysis to this feedback itself? And that's when, the next version, or the Olvy 2.0 sort of born, where we had to completely sort of rebrand ourselves to become like a customer data platform and things like this. We wanted to do now bigger, because now we had some insight about what we wanted to build. So
Right.
yeah, that's what the next phase basically
So when
started.
that transition happened, yep.
That was, so we got the insight, we got our first investment, so that's when we started building the next phase. And yeah, I think the whole of 2022 we
That was
were building.
during 22.
Yeah, we were building all these things, and in 2023 we launched our first the Olvy 2.0. So yeah,
Okay. Awesome. Hmm.
so
Right.
yeah,
How it went
that's
after the 23? Yeah. Hmm.
so that's what the background basically looks like. So eventually, what we built was, just to complete the whole thing, is that we became like a, the way we were what Ollie was basically doing was, we were a qualitative analytics tool, right? So essentially, a lot of these companies or the product teams basically interact with their customers from multiple sources, right? From their Slack to, like Play Store, App Store, internal communities, their CSM, sort of talking to their customers and stuff like that. So what we used to do was bring it all of this text-based sort of text-based data in one place. And using AI, we used to help them enrich all of this data via different things, like from thematic analysis, word cloud analysis, a bunch of other things, right? And basically turn all of this unstructured data into structured, and actually turn a qualitative data into quantitative data to be able to see what exactly these people are actually talking, right? So that's what we built. And then this year in Feb, one of the other companies sort of acquired the product, and yeah, we are now, and that's when now the next phase sort of starts. So this is basically the background.
How was it like? Whether you want to, I mean, try a different thing, like why this acquisition sort happened? No.
Yeah. So. eventually we realized, like there are bunch of parameters that we always need to think of, right? So like for example, how big is the market as well, right? Like and is if there is a company who is already building and have like multiple products, like for example the company who has acquired us have been building, like have been building on top of the Atlassian marketplace. So they have the distribution. They have the kind of companies that they're working with. They already have done it. Now they were also looking for a partnership where they can go separate it out and have a individual product that does the same thing, right? So the thing is, the point is like, can we have a bigger market with um by actually like merging these two companies? That is one thing, right? Second of all, can we win alone, right? I would say, because also the kind of people that we're building for, like for example PMs and product teams in general, they don't really have that kind of budget that we were trying to scale for, right? And that means that we need to stay here for a very very long time and keep pushing and pumping money to actually build something great that could give us a very great or big exit, right? So hence you were like, okay, we have done a great job, I think. And also because there are people who also believe in this idea, and they could, and we can see it grow, I think that it is better to be able to go and sort of work with them and help them to have this product and actually grow it and have another phase of their growth coming in with Olvy, right? So that's basically I would say the overall approach to why we thought that the acquisition was important.
Right.
And it was fairly just because of the kind of market that we were also dealing with. It was not that dense, right? It was like, if I like, one of the things that I always give as an example is that if I go and let's say target product managers on LinkedIn, and specifically in US, there you would see the number as only just 1 lakh, right? That means my ticket size needs to be like so higher to be actually be able to make great revenue.
Right.
You can always
Right.
make good revenue. You can always be in that uh you know phase of going from whatever, like $100,000 to a $1 million and stuff like that. But where does how can you go to $10 million? We don't know yet, right? Like, so those are some of the parameters that you understand while you're building. And I feel like it was actually a great exit, because the product stays, the work that you have done, the legacy that you have created also stays there, and someone has respected that whole thing and took to have their own growth with the things
Right.
that you have built out, right? So I think that's when we were like, okay, that totally makes sense. And it would be great to have that product alive with all the hard work that the whole team has done. And yeah, that's sort of the reason to it.
I mean, okay. What about I mean, of course, I can't bring in Jira product discovery to the this race.
Hmm.
What about product board or other competitors working in the same space? Even when I spoke to
Yeah,
Prashant, right?
yeah,
Even
yeah,
he said the same. This
yeah.
is not a scalable space to work
Yes,
on.
yes,
I mean, with the small investment we got, I mean, we wanted a different kind of growth. That is
yes,
not happening here,
correct.
and that's why I mean, they shut down Zeta. I think you have a similar story to say also.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
is there any great players working in this space? I couldn't even think of. I mean, okay, is there any great players working in this
I'll
space?
explain you what is the problem, right? The problem is most of the product team, like, or the PMs basically are using products that are used by their team, right? Their
Okay.
their main job is to collaborate. Their main job is to be the voice of of everyone in the team, right? And they cannot be like, hey, come on Notion, because Notion is great. No, they have to go to Jira if their engineers love Jira. They have to go to Figma if they love Figma,
Designers.
if their designers love Figma, right? If someone if so, so with that point, you would see that product managers themselves don't have a tool, right?
Okay.
It's not like a specific tool that they use. Plus come to the fact that how hard skill is it, right? Jira, like Notion, Notion is still a productivity tool, and they are sort of, they penetrate in the whole company. They're not trying to sell to a particular ICP, right?
Yeah.
I would take, let's say, Cursor, right? Cursor is built for engineers. That means someone with a hard skill, some human has to have a hard skill to be able to find a value to it. That means that is attached to a particular ICP, right? So that is, I think, a bigger problem to it. Like at the end of the day, we don't even know, and it's a vague job, to be honest. Like PMs have a vague job because they have to play multiple roles. They're not doing just
Yeah.
one job and getting an output out of it. They are making sure that they have to talk to the customers, they have to talk to their marketeer, they have to talk to their designers, they have to talk to the engineers in their own language, right? So their main task was communication, and that is what also the fundamental way how we were also thinking, right? Like, where can product managers, can we help them to communicate everything that is happening, right? So with all the customer data that is coming in, and then once that customer data comes in, you can also turn them into a change log and stuff like that. So the bunch of these things that we were trying to prove and they were trying to build, but then at the end of the day, what is the scale that we can take into? I think that's what also Prashant was trying to say, right? Like, what is the scale that we can take into? Because there is no, like, the market itself is small, right? And
Yeah.
having a bigger exit is something that everyone aspire to be when you're sort of building a product. And you being a founder, your responsibility is not just the product. I mean, it's a lot more. Like, you're trying to build a business, right? And that business needs to be in a grand scale for you to even give any kind of exit to anyone, right? So these are some of the things that goes behind.
I mean, okay, of course, to simply say, when the company is using the Microsoft bundle, let's take Teams together, right? I think same goes for if the developers are using Jira, let's take one of
That's
their
what.
another products, right?
Correct.
I think to keep it simple, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Right. Okay. We'll talk about the builder side of Arnob,
Yep.
right? One of the things I initially mentioned right before we hit the record button is Arnob is more of a builder than an entrepreneur. That's what I felt from what I seen from you, right?
Sure.
And your website, I mean, not your LinkedIn says 2x founder.
Mhm.
I mean, how is it building something like Olvy and at this very young age, right?
Mm.
If you take the average age of the guest I've been talking in the podcast recently, it will
Yeah.
be easily 30
Yeah.
or 28 to 32.
Sure.
That's the range recently.
Yeah.
But you are someone a little younger than that, 28, 29, if I'm not wrong. But
I'm
even
I'm
you
28.
started,
Yeah.
yeah, as you started like five years back.
Yeah.
Olvi. How
Yeah.
was it? Like, is it exhausting, or still Bangalore weather is supporting you to aspire more?
No, and I think with everything that I've done, I think my capacity of taking risk has become much more heavier.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, go
I
on.
I feel like I have not even touched my prime. Right now I'm gonna write my prime. Like, I'm much more dangerous at this point of time, is what I is how I look at
That,
myself, right? So because so the thing is, in this whole journey, I have not seen how much effort or time that I've put in. I've not seen it, to be honest, right? There have been times where I've been exhausted, and I have been exhausted. It's fine. I mean, I feel like if I'm trying to do something great, which I don't even know what is it, but there is something in my mind that there's something great that I could do potentially with everything that I've put in this whole year. And I've been, to be honest, I've been working since I was 16 actually. Um, so and I've been designing since 16, right? So because
awesome.
I've never been good at studies, I don't understand that environment at all in engineering. So I was just making sure that I have some kind of skill that eventually I don't end up being not being able to build my life, right? Because I don't know how to take a very conventional path, because I don't understand, having a pattern in my life. Um, I've always been into the state of keep doing something, right? Like, right from having my first job, which was amazing. I was working with, some great people. These guys are literally like head of design at Google and things like that. Like these guys have done some great work. So I've worked with them, right? And even cracking that, coming from a BTech sort of background. I've done my BTech in Bangalore itself, so it's now been 10 years here.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
so um, I feel like in this whole journey, I was just doing what I was supposed to, and I think I'm exactly at the right place where I was supposed to be. If Imagine if I haven't done anything in the past, I wouldn't even talking to you, right? So the point is, it, if I look at it as a journey, I think there's a lot that I've done without thinking, and in some cases with thinking, right? So when I was doing in when I was early, I was doing because with all the instincts that are possible, and I believe in that. I believe in my instincts. I love when there's something that is coming out of me saying like, okay, this definitely is going to work, right? I actually go behind that. I have consistently been doing in a similar way, but now in this whole journey, I've also started looking at data in a different way. I've been more matured about, oh, this is how is this gonna get impacted. Oh, this is how I'm gonna prove someone else that this is what is gonna work. Right. There are a couple of
Right.
these case
Right.
studies that I've been writing just for me to understand what have I done. Right. So there were like a couple of things that were very unconventional when I was even doing um doing Olvy as well. Like for example, we were known for our videos, like the way we used to launch ourselves. In like that is an instinct. That was an instinct. Like none of the like it won't come naturally to a lot of people, but that came naturally to me to be like my first hire is going to be a motion designer rather than anyone else, right?
Really, you did hire a motion designer as your first
Yes,
year?
yes, yes,
Crazy. Okay. Okay.
right. So and then I understood that if I had to, let's say if I had to tell someone that I have my first hire is going to be motion designer, they would just laugh. They would be like, where are the other engineers and stuff like that, bro? Like, but
Same.
can I use a motion designer build to build some kind of GTM movement to make sure when I hire an engineer, I have things to build, right? That's a data. That's now that would make sense because I would have to do something crazy to make sure that that some every because we are small. I don't know how to speak, right? I don't know how to make sure
Yeah.
that the whole world looks at me. I have to do things weird. I would have to do weird things. I have to do weird shit, right? Like, for example, coming on LinkedIn and speaking. Like, who does that, right? Like, I mean, when videos were not even a thing on LinkedIn, I was doing videos on LinkedIn. Right? I mean, so it's all about how can I go crazy with the stuff that I've been doing, and also in this whole journey, I've understood like, okay, what does it take to become great? What does it takes nothing but a lot of things that has been written right in over here, right? Like all these are a
Okay.
reminder from the journey that I've come through. Like for example,
Okay.
one of it literally says being delusional, which is here,
Okay.
right? I
Okay.
don't know what I want. I
Uh,
don't even know what is the limit that I want to go into. I don't know how great that product needs to be because all this while I was just building, right? I've been building. I've been coming on internet. I'm saying this is what I built. Again, got back. Again, built something. Again, came here. Keep listening to feedback. This it's all iterative in nature, and someday things will fall in place. Someday, like how we got someone to use Olvy, and then eventually got an enterprise, like customer. Between that, we got a couple of SMB customers. All of this would have not happened if we haven't been delusional and doing things whatever we want, right?
right. Right.
Someone, and then in the journey people will come, they will teach you. Like for example, our head of sales was one of the early people from Freshworks, right? And
Okay.
he
Okay.
has literally worked with some of the great
What's his
minds.
name?
Perry Perry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I look
So
at his profile. Okay.
yeah, so he has he has been one of those people who have, told us how this is how sales work. This is how, like the funnel works. This is how you need to create a CRM. This is how these things work and stuff like that. Right. So there's so much learning that has happened. And I feel like now my time starts, bro. Like now because if in this whole phase, if I would have thought that I'm getting exhausted, I am not doing stuff that is not giving me like some next level output to it, I would have not been over here, right? I would not been the person that knows now everything that it takes. Like I would have been just a designer if I would have just been doing a job or whatever, right? If I have not done like my side projects, I would have not been able to scale marketing in Olvy, because I've gotten those um, you know those ideology, those ideas to how backlink work, how SEO works, what is server side rendering, what kind of landing pages you need to make to convert. All of this was coming from fundamentals of side project, then gotten over here. In fact, my marketing hire was an indie hacker that I got to know because I was doing side projects and he was also great at doing side projects
Right.
himself. So, and because he has practical knowledge of, doing marketing, and he came in at Olvy as someone who was leading marketing. So,
Awesome.
so I feel like yes, there are exhaustions. Yes, I have a family. Yes, there are people who wants attention of mine, right? I mean, I'm also married. So the point is, and it was in between of building Olvy, we got married and stuff like that. And obviously, we have been in a relationship for a long time. So see, she knows what kind of person I am. So I've been lucky in that sense also, that they have seen what kind of person I am and what
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
things that I'm trying to do, and I don't have to tell them every day that this is the reason I'm not here at home till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then again going back at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. It's the only reason is that putting in effort is all I can control. Whatever the outcome that comes in, I can orchestrate it towards that, but it doesn't mean that that would actually happen. But if that didn't happen, that failure is within me as a learning, and I know what are the next things I need to do when I'm doing whatever next I do. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm exhausted, but I'm very excited about that with whatever has been happened in this whole time. Yeah,
I mean, I'm glad that you're super optimistic about the phase you are in, right? Whenever I talk to founders who, right after their, I mean, shut down their companies, or maybe maybe a year later, they have this. Of course, right after all of our breakups, we have this trauma, right? We
yeah,
can. So even founders have that, right?
yeah.
And I'm happy to see that you're not in the phase, and you, I mean, look, everything as something, everything as a learning, and want to build something more at this time, right?
In fact,
Yep.
this is the first time even I felt like having a breakup, right? When we decided that, like always, bro, when I'll tell you, like it does take a toll on your body, on a lot of things. I was literally 107 kgs,
Oh, damn.
right?
Okay.
When I left Olvi, and then as soon as I was like, oh, now I have time to not think about things, not to be in a constant thinking, because we were
Okay.
in
Yeah.
a like zone of getting
Yeah.
acquired, and there was the phase was coming down,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was not like a bunch of things that I need to do, but yeah, there were a couple of things that were going on, and we were transitioning towards the new team that was going to take all week, right? So at that point of time, I went to gym, bro. I was like, I cannot make this affect to me of whatever has happened, but I can
Right.
only channelize this whole thing because I've been a sports person in school. I have been a dancer for a long period of time when I was in school again, right? So I knew my body has been fucked up very well, right? Like I have been sitting in 107 kgs and working all the time was not helping me out, right? And that's when I was like, let's transform. First things first is to get
Okay.
down, and I just recently lost like around I'm gonna touch 20 kgs by end of this month. So I've lost
Okay.
20 kgs since August, right?
Awesome.
So
That's great. Yeah.
in the first 3 months I went 15 kgs, and then after that I've taken it slow. I'm taking next 5 kgs slow, because that is also very like everything that I do has to be exhaustive in nature. So I tried trying that, but then again, when you're doing something too fast, that also gets in between of your work. So first thing I did was losing weight and stuff like that, and getting that another the warrior mindset again, right? Like we need to go back. We need to go back in the field. So yeah.
Hmm. I mean, one of the things I want to touch, and I think this isn't the right place, right? Because, of course, you got married while
Mm,
building Olvy,
yeah,
and of course, having a relationship. Okay, I don't want to. I mean,
that's
I've
fine.
seen founders it
Yeah.
having a. I mean, a life running a startup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, either you do the marriage before that,
Mhm.
or once you get into a space when you both have a good rapport, then you start it, right?
Yeah.
I've seen people doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but when things happen in between, right, of
Yeah.
course it will be like
Too
big
many
switch
things
for both
going
of
on.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. I mean,
We
yeah.
No, I'll
Yeah, go
give
ahead.
you I'll give you the background. So, for example, me and my wife basically have been in a relationship since the first year of college, right? So, when we got married, we were already 8 years down.
Right.
And it's, that's what I'm saying, right? Like it's not just Olvi when I was working,
They
right?
know, she know all your craziness.
Yes, I've been working.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I've been working since I was 16, right? So in college also I was working. So because as I said, like bro, I got like 13 backs in engineering, right? I had 13 backs, right? So obviously I was not good at studies. Obviously I cannot be in a point where because of this college degree I'm gonna get a job, right? So that means I need to do more. I need to make sure that.
Hmm.
So I was doing a bunch of these internship even at that time, and see, it's all about how do you make sure that both of the parties know what are their ambitions as well, and also coming back to each other whenever it's needed, right? So I think that's the kind of repo, and that's the, I wouldn't even say repo, I think the relationship is in that way, right? Like she knows what I want. She has been taking care of the whole family since, like whenever I'm doing like my startup or bunch of these things. And also we have very typical sort of similar background as well, because she's basically the eldest in her family. So she has been taken care of doing stuff. I have been an
Right.
alone child, and
Okay.
have gone through a bunch of things um, in general, and we have been together in in all of those situations, right? So we know exactly what is happening in our life, so there's nothing to explain, like, so that's why it was much more easier to be like, hey, let's just do it anyway. We know we're gonna get married, so yeah, that's
Cool,
how it happened.
cool. Happy for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, one more thing I want to ask. I think you will be a right person for this question, right? Things are changing,
Uh-huh.
and we don't know how it is changing. Everyone are like, okay, AI is gonna replace your job, and or maybe someone who is powered by AI will replace your job. But how it is happening? The thing is, I'm a designer professionally, and you are also still consulting a couple of startups, helping them design, and also you are a product person. How both product and design is changing in the new era, in the new AI era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a couple of things. Even I am also observing all the new stuff that is happening, right? And it's very rapid fast, and the quality of things that are coming out of something that is 0 and 1 is insanely good, is one of the things that I would love to address, right? So the quality of things that we could imagine is insanely good now. Like we cannot say that it is doing some mediocre job. It is not, right? At the end of the day, the more the data, the better it is going to be to take that decision, bring in a better quality work out of something which is computer generated or AI generated and stuff like that, right? So definitely one of the things, as I said, even in the starting, is that designers are going to rule, right? And there are two ways I feel like this particular persona should look at the future. One is either you should definitely start a company, because the most empathetic people needs to be at the top, right? And for sure you need to understand a bunch of other things, to start a company or start a business or start a product. But the core fundamental of all of this is like how, like at the end of the day, if you look at building products, like the greatest products are built by understanding the customers very, very, very well, right? And designers are definitely good at it because their core skill set that comes in is problem solving and being empathetic with who these users are or who these humans are behind the screens, right? So that's one of the things that I feel like designers needs to double down on, this particular, taking this as the core skill and try to do something of their own. Obviously there is a risk factor, obviously their life is going to be crazy, obviously it is going to be hard, but you are definitely a right person at this point of time because the human relationship is going to be so much important, that can I take humans to next level using AI, right? So even if you look at most of the innovators that are out there are basically trying to advance. See, this is all advancement of human, right? This is all of this is happening because the advancement of human is going to happen, and this another organism is basically getting built to take humans to another level, which was happening with laptops, which were happening with smartphones, and we were, upgrading ourselves as human
Right.
species. And I definitely feel someone, and now because the data and AI is obviously not coming from a human perspective, the importance of having that human touch is going to be very important in general while you're building a product. That is one thing,
Right.
right?
Right.
The second thing is designers in general should go very independent because the scarcity
Okay.
of and someone understanding the depth of a human is is lacking in the industry in general right now. If you look at it, the competition or the race of being unique as a brand has started. It's not like you can do some mediocre stuff and get out of it. The people who are respecting companies are the companies who are putting 100x more detail to their product, which is, for example, Linear is one of those examples, right?
Yeah.
Notion does is one of those examples. In fact, Raycast, right, which is another product, the way they ship things,
Okay.
the way they look, Framer, bro, like I'm a big fan of that product. The way they are, they're doing their distribution, the way they have their narrative, the way they are representing themselves. I can definitely say, like I can differentiate between, this is Framer versus this is Webflow. I can clearly see that this is how Framer looks like. This is how Framer feels. This is how Framer is. This is what the fundamentals are. This is what makes them different. So they have that narrative very clear, right? So you see now it's not at all about the technology. Like anyone can now build things, but the way they're representing themselves, the way they're using a voice, being more unique, um, is the whole game, and that skill
Right.
is only with the designers at this point of time.
Right.
So and I'm not saying it's
Okay.
because, and I'm not saying it's because other people can't do, but imagine a person who have been designing for 10 years. That person has built a muscle to see it like that, is what I'm saying, right? Like that's why I'm saying that people who have been designing will rule the world because they know how to speak more. They know how to speak it differently because they have been consuming things that are wacky, that are out of the place. They are thinking in a different way altogether. They are the ones who start thinking about why this elevator is not working the way it should be, right? I mean, considering a person who is in a different kind of job where these are not the questions that this person has to ask, so they haven't built that muscle all this while. But these guys in their job, they are supposed to do that. They're supposed to question, why not this, why not that, who is this user, stuff like that, right? And artists are gonna rule, bro. Artists are gonna
Oh,
make
okay.
and the why I'm saying this is because if you look at, like just look at SaaS. Everyone has a
Okay.
pattern. Everyone has a pattern to do it. As soon as Linear broke it, everyone started looking like
Yeah.
Linear, right? Everyone,
What about okay? Okay. Sorry to interrupt,
yeah, yeah,
but
sure.
take Intercom recently. They, I mean,
A classic example, bro, like how
yeah,
they started having a different narration by using those images,
yeah,
and it wouldn't look like any other landing page. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That cannot come when every time you are thinking logic. That won't come when every time you are thinking about conversions. That won't come when you're thinking every time about, oh, how do I hit a number? You need to silo yourself with the storyline and what you want to and how you want to portray yourself. That would only come when you're 10, when you're sitting for 10 hours looking at a screen and trying to build something out of thin air. That's a
Mm.
skill. And that's what designers literally deal with these things every day, right? They're trying to build out something which is out of thin air, right? And that's a
Mm.
skill that these guys own. Like, we go through all of this, right? And everyone has
Mm.
and you would say everyone has an opinion around design. Everyone,
Yeah.
right? There's You
Mm.
cannot go and look at a black screen and tell that this is not how you should write code. But a
Mm.
random person would come and tell you, like, this is what I feel. This is
Everyone will
what
say,
is.
bro.
We also
Yeah.
have a thick skin now. so
I mean,
so
yeah, yeah, a good product designer or a good designer who can write, who can talk,
yes,
like what you said, right? Who is more empathetic, who have the guts to uh, put his thoughts out, right? Put
definitely,
his humanness out in the product.
definitely.
Try out new things, like whatever we said, right?
Yeah,
Linear intercom. There are multiple examples out there.
multiple examples
Uh,
out there. Yeah,
yeah.
the run to
So,
uniqueness is there, bro. And what you just
mm,
said, if I had to just summarize this, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. The core fundamentals of what the designer does, plus entrepreneurship, right? The risk
mm,
taking factor, the attitude that you need, the failures that you would get, but you would anyway come in. But if this combination comes in, and also obviously you need to understand the business fundamentals as well. How
yeah.
does other thing, and you just need to be open to do so, right? Once you are open to do so, there will be 100 people who will come and teach you, and you don't even have
Yeah,
to think
true,
about it.
true.
Like, be just so
Mm.
open that, oh, how do you do this then? A person would come and tell you, bro, like, this is how you do it. I'm like, okay, that's it. You need to be open to do that. So that's why I feel like designers are going to rule. I think they definitely should. And hard skills are going to be much more matterful in terms of job, right? If you just look at the job market, if you have more hard skills, I think, and have done some epic work, you will still be respected because there are a bunch of things that needs to get built. There's a new era that is coming in. We don't know what is that going to be. For example, the announcement of IO by Sam Altman and
Mm.
Johnny Ive
Yeah.
is a classic example of we don't even know what these guys are going to do.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just keep building on the side. Don't restrict yourself to doing a job. Anyway, the world is going to be more competitive in nature. Mediocrity is gonna go. No one is like, if you are going to launch something, if you're going to do something, just go for greatness. And that's all the bar to do anything right now. Like,
Mm.
in fact, the point of MVP changing has already
Mm.
changed. That definition had already changed 5 years back, when people were
True,
when,
true.
when people were like, okay, we can do something, we'll test it out and do. No, I mean, the point is, at this point of time, the users have themselves evolved, the systems have already evolved. They know that some of the basics needs to be there to even use your product. You cannot go with a
Yeah.
mediocre thing and be like, hey, this is what I wanna, like, this is what we have built out, we would love to have your feedback. They won't even tell you to
Talk
do.
to you.
If
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
if let's say you have shown quality from the first day, they will be like, oh fuck, this looks so insane, right? Even that landing page is
Yeah.
like so insane. That seems like they work on quality, and eventually you would earn that respect, and these users will come and talk to you about it.
Even one more thing to add is the time, like what you said in between, right? Time taken to do something, right? To bear a decent, maybe we have this like minimum lovable product,
Yeah,
MLP.
yeah,
Yep, in that lines of MVP. So time taken to build that now has drastically reduced,
yeah,
and I think we should put our efforts to build that out, right? Even take some of the best in the market, right?
yeah,
Devrel,
yeah,
they took first 2 years only in only building their product.
yeah,
They didn't go to the market, right?
yeah,
Even though it is from one of the best SaaS founders out there.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's what. Like, now the thing is, how can I see, humans can definitely see the effort that you have put in, right? Like, if you are doing something mediocre, downloading something from somewhere and then giving something out there, blah, like, who cares? Who cares, right? And if you can push yourself a little bit more, right? I mean, that effort itself will be respected, and humans are finding for more human connection, and can your product have that? Things are going to be more real time. Like for example, even Sam, in one of the things that I was reading, he was like, that data is not going to, it can be generated very real time with the things that a human is doing right now, right? With voice interfaces that are happening, and stuff like that. Like something that I am speaking right now is being reacted right away, because the data is, because there's a lot of data that has been structured now for you to get results much more faster, which is one of the things is, like for example, perplexity, right? I just need to write, I don't have to research. I need to have curiosity and nothing else. In fact, they have used this word curiosity as part of their messaging, right? You just need to have your curiosity and the answers will be given to you. So that's what I'm saying. Like they have taken it beyond. Like that's a new kind of interaction, but it doesn't mean that they have come out of from the traditional means of building a product at this point of time, a digital product at this point of time. But they are doing it, right? They were with voice interfaces and things like this. I'm still giving words to it. Like I shouldn't be saying voice interfaces in general. I should just be saying human interaction in general. Like what makes it much more natural for us to be humans, and at that same point of time using technology or for our own betterment. That's what the world would look like.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just want to touch two things. Like since we spoke about taste and building something of greatness, right? Is there any Indian examples you have at this point who are doing great stuff? Maybe we can be specific about SaaS also.
Um, by the trend is what I have seen is, taste in general. I've seen it in B2C products because some of the great designers basically reside there. In terms of the artistic side also is what I was saying, right? Like for example, Cred. Most of they're doing some great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously pros and cons too, and they're saying about it, but am I are they able to take attention from you? Yes, definitely. That is what I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Swiggy is, I'm a great fan of their team. I think I don't even realize when I order a food, right? And it's just so good. Like the curation, the way they have, the curation in their homepage. It's just such a thoughtful product, and even they take things in a next level, right? Even in terms of understanding who is this person who is ordering at this point of time. Like the data is so right at the point with, like for example, the curation on the top with all the food that I always order again and again, right? So that is one of the things. SaaS, to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who to point out to, because in general, SaaS has come a little late
Yeah. Yeah.
in India. In fact, that is what I was trying to do, at least with Olvy, is to make it look like something like most of us have said that you do look like an American company rather than someone who has originated from India, right? So that's one of the things that, even like, I still have that thing within me, that how can I build something out of India which is world class. But SaaS, I'm not sure. Um, and also I think there's a reason to it. We are a lot of people in India. Like we are a lot of people. So B2C company makes sense in the starting point, because we are solving for problems that are residing inside India. And there's just too much, that because there's too many people, the market is also pretty large. Whereas SaaS is something from India, you need to, the actual payers are basically outside, who have a behavior of investing on softwares in general from a long time, where the understanding of subscription, understanding of putting money on a software is already built, has happened outside. So that 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 selling has to happen outside rather than in India, right? So again, we are evolving. We are, I think, still in an early stage of looking at SaaS that are going to just break the things out on internet
Right.
and be like, this is what is happening. We have done great work in terms of exiting. We have done great work in terms of creating wealth. We have done great stuff going from India to global in terms of revenue and the scale that we have gotten out there. But in terms of design, I think we are still far.
Yeah. Yeah. Design narrative. Yeah. We are still, I mean, on the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one final thing I want to touch is you are an advocate of building or putting yourself in public. I wouldn't say build in public. Yeah,
Yeah,
putting yourself in public, right?
yeah,
So, what do you think? I mean, recently, all this founder coming on the podcast, even talking outside, is getting saturated. Or maybe in 1 or 2 years, it will be like it'll go to the
everyone is doing it.
roof, and everyone maybe find a different channel where they can maybe be unique at, right?
Yeah,
What do you think? What do you think about putting yourself in public at this point?
I think there is no other choice, because how much can you spend to get your first customers, right? You can't. You really can't. The so each email, even if I have to do a cold email today, first of all, that channel itself is saturated. That's the first thing. DMs, or like the traditional way to reach out to an email, do cold outbound and stuff like that, is definitely not working. In general, it will not work also, because emails in general have been exhausted, as it will be exhausted for social media also. I mean, we are already looking at it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The other way around of how I think of it is like, you as a founder, if you are not selling yourself or selling your own product, who will? That's the whole point. Like, that is what you do. That is why you need to be out there in the public and talk about things, good, bad, ugly, whatever, doesn't matter. The point is, can you also have a character to it? Again, if you are not the one who can do it, because that again needs a different kind of skill, can I be unique? Like, for example, people know me with the cap right on my head, like because every time I would just go with a cap, and you wouldn't see a traditional founder being not formal, right? So I'm trying to build a character as well over there, so that people think like, oh, this is an easy guy, there's some kind of experimentation that is happening. So the point is, I think, if you are not selling, who will sell? That is the first point. Second thing is, you need to be unique when you're going out there, right? It could be the way you're narrating it. It could be unique in the ecosystem or the players that you're playing with. Like, for example, if you are building something for, uh, let's say, let's say doctors, what are some of the ways uniquely I can get to them? Right? Then LinkedIn is not a great place to be in, right?
yeah, yeah,
You would rather go to YouTube and try building content that is around them, and hope
yeah.
for that these people are going to find you. But let's say, if I'm selling to enterprises, if I'm selling to, like, people who actually hang out on LinkedIn, I would rather do it over there. So definitely you need to be out there speaking about yourself, and speak things that you're building. You don't even have to speak about yourself. Like, forget about it. People want to know what are the things that you're building, what are the things, who is this character who is building this, what are the, like, what are some of the things that has gone behind building this, right? So those kind of stuff is something that you can definitely play on, right? And build in public doesn't have to be just the way everyone is trying to do. Think of different ways, go beyond,
Find
maybe
your way.
find your way, go and maybe start a fucking show of something else, right? Put in some money or whatever. Like, make sure that's again entrepreneurial mindset, right? Like, I need to make sure, I need to just make things happen, and I'll make it happen with whatever means I have it, right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Just go grand, do something unique. People are getting saturated in the sense that people have also stopped putting money on influencers. Eventually it will reside down, because if I am the one who is controlling the distribution, it is better to put in money on me rather than someone else, because the cost of acquisition will be much more lower, because I have an audience, and once I have an audience, I can literally sell anything. That has been the fundamental of business, for Facebook, for railways, for everything, right?
Yeah,
Every other
yeah,
person has tried since the beginning. Every other person or every other business has tried to control distribution. Every other big corporation that you look at, they always fight for corporation. Even Britishers were fighting for the railway, because they put in that railway tracks for us, right? So what they were trying to do, they were trying to make sure the distribution is so high, and we should be able to control it, right? Only then you will be able to make that money, right? Because the cost of acquisition itself has been owned by you, so the cost of acquisition goes low. The amount of, people that you interact with, the users are, they know who is building this. I know who's this person who is building this. This was the reason. Do something unique, keep doing it, and control the distribution by staying in public. staying in public, because there's no other medium. Also, videos are going to be big. They are big. That's the biggest medium at this point of time. Everyone is consuming video, but now the game is like, how can you be unique? How can you have your own taste,
Right. Right.
and have your own storyline to speak out loud?
Who are the few people you look at? I mean, okay, if we take Lenny or someone, right? They start writing. Now he ventured into podcasting, right? I think he also launched his maybe a compilation of articles into a book.
Yeah,
Maybe one of the examples I really like is Rocket Lane. They have this domain called Rocket Lane TV,
yeah,
where
that's what.
they put out implementation related videos, which is hosted from their side.
Correct.
And also, they brought in multiple creators to the
Yeah,
thing. And people who are making their YouTube videos have podcasts and the similar lines. They have them here, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, is there anything you wanted to try for the next company you might have thought, or maybe for yourself, right?
yeah.
For me, at this point, my channel is this podcast
Hmm.
where I can communicate. Of course, haven't done this in a different way. Haven't used it for any monetization. But yeah, I mean, for you, what you have thought about it? Yeah,
Yeah, I think I would now try to bring like what the uniqueness, right? Like what is the gap that, see, at the end of the day, we're gonna win only when we are building or breaking patterns, right? So humans love
yeah,
patterns in general. Anything which is linear in nature, everything that I'm doing on a daily basis, if something unique comes in or the pattern breaks, I like the body literally gets in shock, right? We start thinking like, what happened? Why did the, like, why did the newspaper didn't, the guy who used to give newspaper hasn't given newspaper, and then suddenly you are in chaos. So the point is, can we, that's what I'm saying, like artists are gonna rule the world at this point of time, because they own how to build unique things. They are the one who have been doing this from a long time. So can I think, and can we go into different other industry and learn and bring things from there to here? You see what I'm saying, right? Like, for example, even the
yeah, yeah.
computers, even the interfaces are built from inspiration of anything that was offline. For example, buttons. Buttons was not created in computers; they were created outside the world, right? So, and I've gotten that relatability from here to there, and that's why it was easier for me to figure out like, okay, this is what it is. But
Right.
that inspiration basically came from somewhere that it didn't really exist. It was somewhere else, right? We don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, can we consume, as humans? Can we consume? The problem with tech people is that they have their own bubble, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And which is LinkedIn and X and Instagram, right? And they're speaking to themselves.
Yeah,
They're just building their own thing, and then they would just upload, and then they would talk about the same. They would talk about how this is great, how that is not great, and things like that. And they're talking to themselves, right? For them to actually do something different, for for that they need to be outside of the world that they are building for. When they're telling stories, they definitely need to be in the world where they are for, to do the business, to understand their customers, to understand everything. But then when you're doing storytelling or things like this, you need to be outside. You need to be outside and taking inspiration from, I don't know, nature. I don't know, you traveling somewhere. There's some culture that is out there which feels like, oh, can I make this relatable to my thing, right? So those are the kind of things that I think that I would love to do, which would grow, which can go grand in general when I do things.
right.
That's how I look at it right now. Like, can I bring, I don't know, very weird posters which has not been seen. Like, simple as that, right? Like, I mean,
Right,
that's how you
right,
break patterns. And then if someone rejects it, go and build something else. If people are not
right.
appreciating, if the people are not getting the idea of what you're trying to tell, that means you're doing something wrong. That means, but that doesn't
Yeah,
mean you don't do unique stuff. You can go and iterate on, let's say I wanted to emote a emotion from you via a poster, but that didn't happen. Maybe the next one will, because I have now a little more data about how you were not reacting the way I wanted you to be, right? So
right.
I think that's how I look at these things, and probably I will experiment with some weird stuff, bro. As I've been doing.
What are your interests outside tech, Arnav?
Bro, like I love in general designing things. Like I don't have, like for example, I've so right now you would see I have this like
Yeah, posters.
posters
Yeah,
are
bunch of
there.
posters. Yeah.
There's this different kind of, like the furniture that are that's which is Dark
Yes.
Academia, right?
Mm.
So yeah, bro, like just doing stuff which is outside of the things that is out of tech or any outcome out of it, right? For example, I do a lot of movies in general. Like for example, whenever I'm going for a trip with my family, I would record everything and try to make the production in a way that it looks like a movie, right? So those kind of things is what I do.
Right.
Recently I've started. I was like, I understand beats, I understand music in general, so I listen to
Oh,
a lot of it.
awesome.
I've been a dancer for a long, long time, so that is inside me. So that's why I feel like anyone should just should just do some kind of art to express themselves and have another layer of deepness within them, so that they can use those same thing in their work and be unique. So yeah, bunch of things, bro. Anything related to art, I keep doing things.
Right. One classic example came to my mind is Harish from Cred.
Yeah,
He heads the design, right?
yeah.
He also owns a band called, I forgot
Uh,
the band name.
Agam.
Yeah. Agam. Yeah, Agam.
I've
Right.
seen him.
So,
He came to my college when I was in second year. He was
okay,
the one who
okay,
has performed, and cut to after a
okay.
couple of years, Harish is head of design at
Yeah.
Grade. But I have been a big
Hmm.
fan of Agam in general
Yeah.
also, and that guy as well.
True, right? I mean, this is from his previous experience doing Agam, and also he is very artistic,
Mhm.
and he has, I mean, very bold thoughts whenever he talk outside. I mean, talk on LinkedIn or places, right? And also, I started seeing SaaS companies doing rap.
Mm.
We kind of seen SaaS companies being
Yeah,
very conventional, very
yeah,
traditional about what they do, right?
yeah.
Uh, I mean, they started doing rap, and if you look at Thredo, I think they shut down very
Yes.
recently.
Yeah.
He was handling marketing, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
owning the marketing function at Zomato before.
Right.
I spoke to Pramod on the podcast,
Yeah.
and they launched their product. I mean, they did their product hunt launch with a rap video. So, yep, like what are you saying, right? Be diverse, learn a bunch of things,
Yeah.
and bring it to the place where, I mean, that, I mean, pays you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I mean, there are things that you need to do just for the sake of it, just to have that another weapon in your belt, right? Like,
Mm.
and then once the time comes in, oh, I know this. Let's use that. Like that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Mm. Yep, that's what salespeople in US talk about pickleball and stuff. You have to be,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Yes. Glad talking to you, Arnab.
yeah,
A good time.
yeah.
Yep. Hope we'll catch up in person soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.